No, no, Michael. You can't do this to me. It was just past midnight at General Hospital. The halls were quiet and empty. Only the night staff moved through the corridors. A young lady named Angela staggered into the lobby. Her face was pale and wet with tears. Her hands were shaking as she walked to the front desk. She had just received a call to identify her husband's body. He had died in his office just a few hours ago. Please, I need to see my husband, Angela whispered to the nurse. His name is Michael Johnson. They said he had a heart attack. The nurse looked at her with kind eyes. I'm sorry for your loss, ma'am. Let me call Dr. Eunice for you. Angela was trembling and found it hard to explain her pain. She just said, please, let me see him. I'm sure that's not my husband there. Dr. Eunice came quickly to take Angela. She was a tall woman with gray hair and gentle hands. She had worked at the hospital for 20 years. Mrs. Johnson, I know this is very hard for you, Dr. Eunice said softly. Are you ready to see him? Angela nodded, but her heart was beating so fast. She followed Dr. Eunice down a long hallway. They walked to the morgue. The air was cold and smelled like chemicals. Angela felt sick to her stomach. Take your time, Dr. Eunice said, as they stopped in front of a metal table. In the morgue, Angela was shocked when Dr. Eunice showed her husband's corpse. She hadn't seen anything like that before. An erection? She didn't know how to react or what to do. Oh my God, Angela gasped. Her face turned white as a sheet. Dr. Eunice was also shocked. In all her years working with dead bodies, she had never seen this before. This was not normal. I don't understand, Dr. Eunice whispered. This should not be possible. Angela covered her mouth with her hands. She wanted to run away, but she couldn't move her feet. Is this really my husband? Angela asked with a shaky voice. Dr. Eunice checked the name tag again. Yes. As unfortunate as it might be, this is Michael Johnson. Age 35. He was brought in at 8 p.m. tonight. Angela looked at Michael's face. It was definitely him. But why was his body like this? Dead body. Don't have erections. Something is very wrong here, Dr. Eunice said. She had worked with dead bodies for many years. She knew this was not normal. Angela started to cry harder. First, her husband was dead. Now, his body was doing impossible things. Can you fix this? Angela asked. Dr. Eunice shook her head. I have never seen this before. Let me call Dr. Peters. He has more experience with unusual cases. Dr. Peters arrived 30 minutes later. He was an old man with white hair and thick glasses. He had been a doctor for 40 years. Show me the body, Dr. Peters said. When Dr. Peters saw Michael's corpse, his face went pale. He stepped back from the table. This is impossible, he whispered. The heart stopped hours ago. Blood is not flowing. This cannot happen. Angela felt dizzy. What does this mean, doctor? Dr. Peters was quiet for a long time. He looked at Michael's body from different angles. He checked for signals, signs of life, but there was none. Mrs. Johnson, I need to ask you some questions about your husband, Dr. Peters said. Angela wiped her eyes. What do you want to know? Has anything unusual happened recently? Any strange changes in Michael's behavior? Angela thought about the last few months. Michael had been acting differently. He became very secretive. She said slowly. He would come home late. He started getting phone calls at night. Tell me more, Dr. Peters said. He seemed stressed about something, but whenever I asked, he said everything was fine with his business. Dr. Peter and Dr. Eunice looked at each other. They were both thinking the same thing. Mrs. Johnson, there might be something beyond medical science happening here, Dr. Peter said carefully. What do you mean? Angela asked. I think we need to talk to someone who understands spiritual matters. I know someone who might help us. Angela had never believed in spiritual things, but seeing her husband's body like this made her think differently. Who can help us? She asked. There is a woman named Grace. She is very wise about these things. She has helped people before. Angela was very scared, but she wanted answers. Can we go see her now? Dr. Peter nodded. I will call her. Dr. Peter made a phone call. He spoke quietly to someone for a few minutes. Grace will see us, he said. They drove to Grace's house. It was a small house with a garden full of herbs. Grace was an old woman with kind eyes. Come in, child, Grace said to Angela. I know why you are here. They sat in Grace's living room. Angela told Grace everything that had happened. Grace listened carefully. Her face became serious. This is not a medical problem, Grace said. This is a spiritual matter. Your husband's soul is troubled. What do you mean? Angela asked. When someone dies with great shame or guilt, sometimes their spirits cannot rest. The body shows signs of this spiritual disturbance. Angela felt cold all over her. What kind of shame are you talking about? Grace closed her eyes and was quiet for a moment. I sense that your husband hurt someone badly. A young woman. Her pain is keeping his soul from finding peace. That's impossible, Angela said. Michael will never hurt a fly. I must find this woman, Grace said. She holds the key to help your husband's soul rest. Grace stood up and walked to a shelf. She picked up some herbs and candles. Her name is Sarah, Grace said suddenly. She lives across the town. She works as a cleaner. How do you know this? Dr. Peter asked. I can feel her pain, Grace said. It is very strong. We must go to her now. The next morning, Grace led them to a small apartment building across the town. They climbed to the third floor and knocked on door 3B. A young woman opened the door. She was about 20 years old with sad eyes and pale skin. When she saw the strangers, she tried to close the door. Wait, Grace said gently. Are you Sarah? The girl froze. How do you know my name? We need to talk to you about Michael Johnson, Grace said. Sarah's face went white. She stepped back like she had been slapped. I don't want to talk about him, Sarah whispered. Please go away. We know he hurt you, Angela said, stepping forward. I'm his wife. Please, we need to understand what happened. Sarah looked at Angela with anger in her eyes. Your husband destroyed my life. I don't want to see any of you. Please, Angela begged. Michael is dead, but something strange is happening. We need your help. Sarah laughed bitterly. He's dead? Good. I hope he suffered. His soul cannot rest, Grace said quietly. And neither can yours. I can see the pain you carry. Sarah's anger cracked a little. She looked at Grace with tears in her eyes. You don't understand what he did to me, Sarah whispered. Then tell us, Grace said. Let us help you. Sarah was quiet for a long time. Finally, she stepped back and led them into her small apartment. The apartment was dark and simple. Sarah sat on her cold couch and looked at the floor. I don't know where to start, she said. Start from the beginning, Grace said gently. Sarah took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking as she began to speak. I am an orphan. My parents died in a car accident when I was 5 years old. I grew up in different foster homes, moving from one family to another. Angela felt her heart breaking as she listened. Some families were kind, but most of them just wanted the money the government gave them for keeping me. I never felt like I belonged anywhere. I never had a real home. Sarah's voice cracked with emotion. When I turned 18, the foster care system was done with me. I had to leave my last foster home with nothing but a small bag of clothes. I was completely alone in the world, Sarah continued, tears flowing down her face. I had no family, no friends, no money. I slept in homeless shelters and ate at Soup's kitchen. Angela covered her mouth with her hands. She had never imagined such suffering. For 3 months, I walked the street looking for work. Any work. I applied at restaurant stores, cleaning companies, but no one wanted to hire someone with no experience and no permanent address. Sarah wiped her tears. I was losing weight because I barely ate. Some days, I would go 24 hours without food. I was getting weaker and weaker. I was still on a park bench one day, crying and praying to God for help. I was thinking about giving up on life. That was when Michael found me. Sarah's voice became softer. He was walking through the park in his expensive suit. He looked so successful and confident. When he saw me crying, he stopped and asked what was wrong. He seemed like an angel sent from heaven, Sarah said, her voice filled with pain. He listened to my story with such kind eyes. He said he wanted to help me. Angela whispered, "That sounds like Michael. He's always had a good heart." Sarah looked at her with sad eyes. "That's what I thought too. He bought me a meal that day, the first real meal I had eaten in weeks. I was so grateful. He told me he owned a business and needed someone to clean his office. He said he would pay me well and help me get on my feet." Sarah's voice became bitter. I thought God had finally answered my prayers. I thought this kind man was going to save me from the street. For the first week, everything was perfect. He gave me a key to his office building. I would come in early in the morning and clean everything. He paid me more money than I had ever seen. Sarah started crying harder. He even helped me find a small apartment. He paid the first month's rent and bought me some clothes. I felt like I finally had a chance at a normal life. Angela felt tears running down her own face. What happened then? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke in a whisper. After 2 weeks, he started staying late at the office while I was cleaning. He would watch me work and make comments about how pretty I was. At first, I thought he was just being nice. I had never had anyone tell me I was pretty before. I felt special. Sarah's voice became shaky. Then one day, he asked me to clean his private office while he was there. He locked the door behind me. Dr. Peter and Dr. Eunice looked shocked. Grace reached out and held Sarah's hand. He told me that he had been very generous to me. He said it was time for me to show my appreciation. Angela felt something cold in her stomach. What do you mean? He said that the job came with special duties. He said if I wanted to keep working for him, I had to do whatever he asked me to do. Sarah started sobbing. I didn't understand at first. I was so innocent. I had never even been kissed by a boy. He told me to take off my clothes. When I refused, he reminded me that I had nothing without him. No job, no apartment, no food. He said he could throw me back on the street whenever he wanted. Angela felt like she was going to be sick. No, this can't be true. Michael wasn't like that. He was exactly like that, Sarah said, her voice getting stronger. He said he had been planning this from the moment he saw me in the park. He said he knew I was desperate and would do anything to survive. Sarah wiped her tears. I begged him to let me just clean his office. I promised I would work harder, but he said his mind was made up. I told him I was a virgin and wanted to save myself for marriage. I told him it was against my belief, but he laughed and said God helps those who help themselves. Angela started crying. I'm so sorry. I had no idea my husband was capable of such evil. He gave me 2 choices. Sarah continued. Do what he wanted or be thrown out on the street that same day. Sarah looked at Angela. I was so scared of being homeless again. I was so scared of starving. So I gave in. I let him do what he wanted because I needed the job to survive. The first time, I cried through the whole thing. He didn't care. He just kept telling me how lucky I was to have him take care of me. Sarah's voice became filled with rage. After that day, he would call me into his office whenever he wanted to. Sometimes twice a week. Sometimes every week. I would dread going to work, but I had no choice. He made sure I knew that my survival depended on pleasing him. Grace squeezed Sarah's hand. You don't have to tell us everything if it's too painful. No. I need to say it, Sarah said firmly. I've been carrying this secret for too long. Every time he touched me, I would curse him in my mind. I would pray that God will punish him for what he was doing to me. Sarah looked at the ceiling. I stopped believing in God for a while. I thought if God was real, he would never let this happen to a poor orphan, to someone who had already suffered so much. I started having nightmares every night. I would wake up screaming. I couldn't eat properly. I was losing weight again, even though I finally had food. Some days, I would think about killing myself, but then I would remember that I had nowhere else to go. Michael had made sure I was completely dependent on him. Angela was crying so hard. She could barely speak. How long did this go on? For 8 months, Sarah said quietly. 8 months of hell. Every day. I prayed for it to end every day. I cursed him and begged God to make him stop. I tried to find another job, but Michael had made sure I couldn't leave. He told me he would give me a bad reference if I tried to work anywhere else. Sarah's voice became dark. He also said he would tell everyone that I was a prostitute who had seduced him. He said no one would believe an orphan girl over a successful businessman. I was trapped, completely trapped, and he enjoyed knowing that I had no way out. Grace spoke softly. Tell us about the day he died. Sarah's face became even more pained. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I always hated Tuesday. He would always call me into his office on Tuesdays. I was feeling sick that day. I had started my monthly period that morning, and I was in pain when he called me. I told him I wasn't feeling well. He didn't care. He never cared about how I felt. He said I had no choice but to come to his office. Sarah looked directly at Angela. I told him about my period. I begged him to leave me alone that day, but he said it didn't matter to him. Angela gasped. Oh no! I was crying before I even got to his office. I knew what was going to happen, and I knew it would be worse because I was already in pain. When I got there, he was already undressing. He told me to hurry up because he had a meeting later. Sarah's voice became filled with emotion. That day, I was in more pain than ever before. Physical pain from my period and emotional pain from knowing I couldn't escape. I cried harder than I had ever cried before. I cursed him with all my heart. I begged God to make him stop hurting me. I told God that I couldn't take it anymore. I prayed that if God was real, he would end my suffering. Sarah looked at everyone in the room. I cursed Michael with words I have never said before. I told him I hope he would die. I told him I hope God will punish him for what he was doing to me. I was so angry and hot that I screamed at him. I told him he was evil and that he would pay for his sins. Angela felt like the world was spinning. What happened then? He was on top of me and suddenly he made a strange sound, like he couldn't breathe. Then he just stopped moving. Sarah's voice became quiet. At first, I thought he was trying to scare me, but then I realized he wasn't breathing at all. I pushed him off me and saw that his eyes were open but empty. His face was grey. I had never seen a dead person before, but I knew he was gone. Dr. Peter cleared his throat. What did you do? I was so scared, Sarah said. I thought people would think I killed him. I thought they would blame me for his death. I got dressed as fast as I could and ran out of the building. Didn't tell anyone what really happened. I just ran home and prayed that no one would find out. Sarah looked at Angela with tears in her eyes. Your husband didn't die of heart attack in his office like they said. He died while he was raping me. The room went completely silent. Everyone was trying to process what they had just heard. I've been carrying this secret for 3 days, Sarah continued. I've been afraid someone would find out and arrest me. I've been afraid they would say it wasn't my fault. But I also felt glad that he was dead. I felt free for the first time in 8 months. And then I felt guilt for being glad. Angela was crying so hard she could barely breathe. I can't believe this. This isn't the man I married. This isn't the man I loved. I'm sorry, Sarah said to Angela. I know this must be terrible for you to hear, but you asked for the truth. Angela looked at Sarah with tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry for what my husband did to you. I feel so ashamed that I shared a bed with a man who could do such a terrible thing. It's not your fault. But I hope you understand why I don't want to forgive him. If you don't forgive him, child, both of you will remain trapped, Grace said. His body will never rest and your hearts will never heal. Angela knelt in front of Sarah. Please, I know you have every right to hate him, but please, help us set both of you free. Sarah looked at Angela for a long time. She saw the pain in Angela's eyes and realized that Michael had hurt her too. Will forgiving him make the nightmare stop? Sarah asked. Yes, Grace said. It will break the spiritual connection between both of you. I want my life back, she said. I want to sleep without nightmares. They drove to the hospital together. Sarah sat quietly in the car, preparing her heart. At the morgue, Grace gathered candles and herbs. She gave everyone prayers to say. We must all pray together, Grace said. Sarah's forgiveness is the key, but our combined prayers will give it power. They went into the morgue. Grace laid the candles around Michael's body. The room smelled like flowers. Sarah looked at Michael's corpse. Seeing him made her feel sick and angry again. I can't do this, she stepped back. Yes, you can, Angela said, taking her hand. You are stronger than you know. Sarah took a deep breath. Okay, let's do this. Grace began to pray. God, help us break the chains that bind these souls. Let forgiveness. Bring healing. Sarah felt something strange in the air. It was like electricity running through her body. Sarah, Grace said, you must speak the words of forgiveness now. Sarah looked at Michael's face. She thought about all the pains he had caused her, but she also thought about the freedom she wanted. Michael Johnson, she said in a shaky voice, I forgive you for what you did to me. I forgive you for hurting me and taking advantage of me. The candles flickered. I chose to release anger. Angela began to pray. Lord, forgive my husband's sins. Let his soul find peace. They all prayed together. Their voices filled the room. Sarah felt something leaving her body. It was like a heavy weight being lifted from her shoulders. I forgive you, she said again. Then suddenly, the candles flickered wildly. The room became very cold, then warm again. When they looked at Michael's body, the erection was gone. His face looked peaceful. It is finished, Grace said quietly. His soul is free now. Sarah felt different. The heavy feeling in her chest was gone. She felt lighter than she had in months. 2 weeks later, Angela had Michael's funeral. It was small and quiet. Sarah came to support Angela. No one knew about the strange things that had happened at the morgue, but Angela and Sarah knew that Michael's soul was finally at peace. Angela kept the truth about how Michael died as a secret. She felt deep shame about what her husband had done, but she also knew that some secrets were too painful to share with the world. Sarah started seeing a counselor to help her heal from the trauma. The nightmares stopped and she began to sleep peacefully. She found a new job at a school, working with children who need help. Angela and Sarah became friends. They understood each other's pain and helped each other heal. Even in death, our sins can be exposed, Angela said to Sarah one day. Michael thought no one would ever know what he did, but God saw everything, Sarah nodded. It taught me that there is a justice, even when we can't see it, and that forgiveness is the only way to find peace. Both women learned that carrying shame and anger only hurt the person carrying it. They chose to focus on healing and moving forward. Angela found a job helping other women who had been hurt by men they trusted. Sarah continued working with children, using her experience to help them understand the importance of speaking up when adults hurt them. Sometimes, they would meet for coffee and talk about how their life had changed. They were both different people now, stronger and wiser. Michael's death taught me that we never really know the people we love, Angela said. But it also taught me that forgiveness can heal even the deepest wound. And it taught me that I'm stronger than I thought, Sarah added. I survived something terrible and I chose to let love win over hate. They both knew that Michael's action had consequences that lasted even after his death. But they also knew that those consequences didn't have to define their future. The most important thing, Sarah said, is that we both found peace. And that's what matters now. Angela agreed. Yes, we found peace and we found each other. Something good came from something terrible. They continued to support each other as they built new lives. Angela carried the shame of her husband's action, but she didn't let it destroy her. Sarah carried the scars of what happened to her, but she didn't let them make her bitter. Both women learned that healing is possible even from the worst experiences. They learned that forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not the person who hurts you. And they learned that sometimes the most beautiful friendships are born from the deepest pain. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to share this story with your family and your friends who might love to see them. Till I see you again in my next story. Goodbye.